there's a headman of a village, and then there's a headman of a bunch of villages, and then a headman of the whole area. And they still are like that. So if you have any problem, you go see one headman after another and try to get the problem solved. And they're real helpful that way. And the more popular the headman is, the better he is at solving things. So this is what Chonky was. He was like a headman of a big village, a big area.
So this is the Chonky Sutta?
Yes, it is.
95?
The Brahmin householders of Uposatha heard the recluse Gautama, the son of the Sakyans, who went forth from the Sakyan clan, has been wandering in the country of the Vedayans with a large sangha of monks, with 500 monks. He couldn't go to the bathroom if he didn't have 500 monks behind him. He always, everywhere he went, he had 500 monks. Now, a good report of the Master Gautama has been spread to this effect. The Blessed One is accomplished, fully enlightened, perfect in true knowledge and conduct. Think about that for a minute. True knowledge and conduct. Perfect. Wow. He was the politest, he was the nicest, the wisest. Sublime, knower of world, incomparable persons, leader of persons to be tamed, teacher of gods and human, enlightened and blessed. He declares this world with its gods, its maras and its brahmas, this generation with the recluses and brahmins, with its princes and its people, which he has himself realized with direct knowledge. He teaches the Dhamma, good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end, with the right meaning and phrasing. He reveals a holy life that is utterly pure. Now, it is good to see such arahats. I would think so. That kind of a build-up, you know. Yeah, that sounds like somebody that you ought to go see. Then the Brahmin householder of Uposatha set forth from Uposatha in groups and bands and headed northwards to the God's Grove, the Sala Tree Grove. The Sala Tree is really a beautiful tree. It has leaves that are smaller than maple tree, but they're really like perfect little leaves. And when it flowers, it has white flowers that are just knock your eyes out beautiful. And Japanese are real big on their cherry blossoms. I think the Sala is better.
Wow.
And it has a very nice scent. It's not, you know, you go by orange trees when they're flowering and they have a very nice scent for a little while and then it's too heavy. The Sala tree isn't like that. It's always light but very nice scent. Now on that occasion, the Brahmin Chonky had retired to the upper story of his palace for his noonday rest. Then he saw the Brahmin householders of Uposatha setting forth from Uposatha in groups and bands and heading northward to the God's Grove, the Sala Tree Grove. When he saw them, he asked his minister, good minister, why are the Brahmin householders of Uposatha setting forth from Uposatha in groups and bands and heading northward to the God's Grove, the Sala Tree Grove? Sir, there is the recluse Gautama, the son of the Sakyans, who went forth from the Sakyan clan, who has been wandering in the Kosalan country. And it goes through what I just read in the other chapter. Then it says, they are going to see Master Gautama. Then good minister, go to the Brahmin householders of Uposatha and tell them, sirs, the Brahmin Chonky says this. Please wait, sirs. The Brahmin Chanki will also go to see the Master Gautama. Yes, sir, the minister replied, and went to the Brahmin householders of Uposatha and gave them the message. Now, on that occasion, 500 Brahmins from various states were staying in Uposatha for some business or other. They heard the Brahmin Chanki, it is said, is going to see the recluse Gautama. Then they went to the Brahmin Chanki and asked him, sirs, is it good that you're going to see the recluse Gautama? It is so, sirs. I'm going to see the recluse Gautama. Sir, do not go see the recluse Gautama. It is not proper, Master Chanki, for you to go see the recluse Gautama. Rather, it is proper for the recluse Gautama to come see you. For, sir, you are well born on both sides, that means his mother and father, of pure maternal and paternal descent 7 generations back. That means for 7 generations this family has been Brahmins, born into the Brahmin caste. Unassailable and impeccable in respect of birth. Since that is so, Master Chanki, it is not proper for you to go see the recluse Gautama. Rather, it is proper for the recluse Gautama to come see you. You, sir, are rich with great wealth and great possessions. You, sir, are a master of the 3 Vedas with their vocabularies, liturgy, phonology, etymology, and the histories as the 5th. Skilled in philology and grammar. You are fully versed in the natural philosophy and in the marks of a great man. You, sir, are handsome, comely, and graceful, possessing supreme beauty of complexion, with sublime beauty and sublime presence, remarkable to behold. You, sir, are virtuous, mature in virtue, possessing mature virtue. You, sir, are a good speaker with good delivery. You speak words that are courteous, distinct, flawless, and communicate the meaning. You, sir, teach the teachers of many, and you teach the recitation of the hymns to the 300 Brahmin students. You, sir, are honored, respected, revered, venerated, and esteemed by King Pasenadi of Kosala. You, sir, are honored, respected, revered, venerated, and esteemed by the Brahmin Harasati. You, sir, rule over Uposatha, a crown property abounding in living beings, a sacred grant given to you by King Pasenadi of Kosala. Since this is so, Master Gautama, it is not proper for you to go see the recluse Gautama. Rather, it is proper for the recluse Gautama to come see you. There's a story, and I can't remember the name of the person. From the time he was born, he never had to touch the ground. He was carried everywhere he was. And he was so delicate that he actually had hair growing out of the bottom of his feet. And he became very famous because of that. I mean, he always had people around and he was just a very delicate person. And he would get invited places and he would have to sit so that they could see the hair on the bottom of his feet. He went to hear the Buddha and he became real enthusiastic, and he wanted to become a monk. Now the monks, they walked around the countryside without anything on the bottom of their feet. They walked barefooted. And he knew this, but he still wanted to become a monk. So he became a monk, and he went to this one place and he got his own little kuti and he started doing his practice of meditation, and he would alternate walking and sitting. But his feet were so tender that they started to bleed because he was walking on little tiny rocks and that sort of thing. And his walking area started to smell like a slaughter yard because of the blood. And the Buddha happened to walk by his area and he said, "What is this? Why is this happening?" And somebody said, "Oh, it's nothing, it's just this monk. He is very tender and very delicate. And when he walks, his feet are so delicate that it causes blood to come out." So because of this monk, we are now allowed to have sandals. He did us a great turn. And soon after that, he was able to walk without pain in his feet. And he became an arhat. So, that gives you an idea of how tender some of these people are that were pampered. Some of these rich Indian princes were. There was, who was it? Anuruddha? I think it was Anuruddha. He saw a Buddha in one lifetime, and he gave him a meal. And with that meal, he made a determination that he would never hear, "I don't have." So during the time of the Buddha, he was reborn, of this Buddha, and he was reborn. And as he was growing up, he had a bunch of friends that he was playing with, and he was gambling. And what he was gambling was cakes. So he lost. So he sent to his mother and said, "Please send me some cakes." So she sent some. And he lost some more. And he sent to his mother and said, "Please send me some cakes." And she sent him all that she had. The next time he lost some more. "Please send me some cakes." "I don't have any cakes." She sent back an empty thing. Now, because this determination was so strong, the Devas put heavenly cake into this empty thing. And when they got the cakes, they started eating it, and oh, it was like the best smell you've ever run across, and it tingled all of the sense buds in your tongue. And oh, this is the greatest cake ever. And he got upset, and he went to his mother and said, "You don't love me." And she said, "Why do you say that?" "Well, you've never given me these I don't have cakes before. And those are the best. So you don't love me because you never gave me the best." So from then on, anytime he wanted some cake, she said, "I don't have," and he got these celestial cakes. And he got into a discussion with his friends. And he said, "Where does food come from?" And Anuruddha said, "Food comes from a gold bowl." Because he had always seen it in a gold bowl. He never went out. He was always in his area playing around and doing whatever. And there was this discussion of where the food came from, and all of these young princes didn't know where food came from. They didn't know you had to till the soil and you had to do all of these things. And finally he went to his older brother. I think his older brother was Mahanama. And asked where food came from. So his older brother took him out to the fields and showed him all the things that needed to be done, and it freaked him out. And he said, "That's way too much work. I don't want to do something like that. I heard the Buddha give a talk not too long ago. I want to become a monk." And he and his younger brother became monks. His younger brother was Ananda. And he was foremost in the divine eye. He was second to the Buddha in the divine eye. He could see 1,000 world systems, just like you stand on a hill and you see a village over there, and you point your mind towards that village. It's like you're walking around in the village. You know, there's another one over there, and he could do that with world systems. Anyway, that gives you an idea of the truly protected lifestyle. So because he was so protected, the Brahmins didn't want him going out and seeing the Buddha. They wanted the Buddha to come see him because he was so pampered. And it looked bad for the Brahmins. When this was said, the Brahmin Chaki told the Brahmins, "Now, sirs, hear from me why it is proper for me to go to the Master Gotama, and why it is not proper for Master Gotama to come see me. Sir, the recluse Gotama is well born on both sides of pure maternal and paternal descent, 7 generations back. He was born of the warrior class. He was not a Brahmin. But that's still considered real high. The Brahmins, most of them are the truly educated, but quite a few of the warrior class was very highly educated too. They were educated more in mathematics. They were more like the CEOs of businesses and things like that. Since this is so, it is not proper for Master Gotama to come see me. It is rather it is proper for me to see Master Gotama. Sirs, the recluse Gotama went forth, abandoning much gold and bullion stored away in vaults and depositories. Sir, the recluse Gotama went forth from the home life into the homeless while still young, a black-haired young man endowed with the blessings of youth in the prime of his life. The Brahmins, what they do is they get married, they have their children, then when they get to be 60, then they become recluses. They leave their family, they've taken care of everything that needed to be taken care of, and now they can. So to have somebody this young to become an ascetic and be as wealthy as he was and all of these kind of things is really highly unusual. Sir, the recluse Gotama shaved off his hair and beard and put on the yellow robe and went forth from the home life into the homelessness, otherwise, and wept with the tearful faces. Sir, the recluse Gotama is handsome, comely, graceful, possessing supreme beauty of complexion, with sublime beauty and sublime presence, remarkable to behold. Sir, the recluse Gotama is virtuous, with noble virtue, with wholesome virtue, possessing wholesome virtue. Sirs, the recluse Gotama is a good speaker, with good delivery, He speaks words that are courteous, distinct, flawless, and communicate the meaning. Sirs, the recluse Gautama is a teacher of the teachers of many. Sirs, the recluse Gautama is free from sensual lust and without personal vanity. Sirs, the recluse Gautama holds the doctrine of the moral efficacy of action, the doctor of the moral efficacy of deeds. He does not seek any harm for the line of Brahmins. Sir, the recluse Gautama went forth from an aristocratic family, one of the original noble families. Sir, the recluse Gautama went forth from a rich family, from a family of great wealth and great possessions. Sirs, people come from remote kingdoms and remote districts to question the recluse Gautama. Sirs, many thousands of deities have gone for refuge for life to the recluse Gautama. Sirs, a good report of the recluse Gautama has been spread to this effect, that the Blessed One is accomplished, fully enlightened, perfect in true knowledge and conduct, sublime knower of worlds, incomparable leader of persons to be tamed, persons of gods and teacher of gods and humans, enlightened and blessed. Sirs, the recluse Gautama possesses the 32 marks of a great man. Sirs, King Sinya Bimbisara of Magadha and his wife and family have gone for refuge for life to the recluse Gautama. Sirs, King Pasenadi of Kosala and his wife and children have gone for refuge for life to the recluse Gautama. Now, King Bimbisara was the king of a very large region called Magadha, and actually speaking, the language that the Buddha spoke is Magadha, but we call it Pali. I don't know how it got this term, Pali, but he spoke in the common language. That was the most common dialect for that area that he spent most of his time in. He chose not to speak Sanskrit because too many people wouldn't understand it. The common farmers and merchants and that sort of thing, they didn't speak Sanskrit. They went to the Brahmins to find out what the Sanskrit meant. So by talking directly to the common people and using a language that they could really understand, this is one of the reasons that Buddhism became so popular. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do in this country. Not use language that isn't familiar. Try to use simple language so that you can understand the different reds.
Didn't the Buddha, or am I mistaken, say something about that for the Dhamma to flourish?
Yes. He encouraged that we look into other religions so that we can be able to talk intelligently, but to use as common a language as we can. But the thing that happens, it happens in Thailand, it happens in Burma, they get very well educated, they memorize huge quantities of things. And because of the language in the sutta that they memorize, that's the language that they use. And then it has to be translated, and they use too high a language for the common people to really understand. And that's one of the reasons why the Buddhism in Asian countries is not flourishing as much as it can. Now, another reason is material possessions are getting easier and easier to get, and people are starting to get greedy. And that's not what Buddhism is about. So people are starting to leave that more and more. Sirs, the recluse Gautama has arrived at Uposatha and is living at Uposatha in the God's Grove, the Salatri Grove, to the north of Uposatha. Now, any recluses or Brahmins that come to our town are our guests, and guests should be honored, respected, revered, and venerated by us. Since the recluse Gautama has arrived at Uposatha, he is our guest, and as our guest should be honored, respected, revered, and venerated by us. Since this is so, it is not proper for Master Gautama to come see me, rather it is proper for me to go see Master Gautama. Sirs, so much is the praise of Master Gautama that I have learned, but the praise of Master Gautama is not limited to that, for the praise of Master Gautama is immeasurable. Since Master Gautama possesses each one of these factors, it is not proper for me to come see him. Rather, it is not proper for him to come see me. Rather, it is proper for me to come see Master Gautama. Therefore, sirs, let all of us go to see the Master Gautama. When the Brahmin Chanki, together with a large company of Brahmins, went to the Blessed One and exchanged greetings with him, when this courteous and amiable talk was finished, he sat down at one side. Now, in other suttas, it talks about large groups of people coming to see Master Gautama, and some of them would make a big show of bowing to him and saying things to him. How are you doing? How is your health? Is there anything I can help you with? That sort of thing. Others would come in and they didn't bow. They put their hands together and bowed their head. They didn't get down on the ground. And they would say their family name and then talk very little with him and then go on. Some people would just come in and they would put their hands together and say their family name and go on. Other people would come in and just say their family names and go sit down. The idea of having to bow is very cultural. The idea of paying respect is not. Yes.
So when we do, ceremonies in the United States, the prostration and everything, I mean, should we be doing that, or should we be, folding our hands and doing half prostration?
It's good for these kind of ceremonies like we're going to have
like
tomorrow.
ceremonies, yeah.
Yes, it's good to bow, but not overdo it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's some people that say, well, you have to bow, and then when you put your hands down, you have to open your hands like this. No, you bow, you touch your elbow and your wrist so that you're down all the way. What's more important than the actual bowing is what are you doing with your mind while you're doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Are you radiating loving kindness? Are you radiating respect? That's the important aspect of the bowing. The bowing is just an external show. What are you doing with your mind? when I first became a monk in Thailand, I'd go and bow in front of these different teachers, and I was radiating loving kindness to them, and they would always stop me and say, "Very good," because they could feel the loving kindness that I was sending them. And it was sincere, it was real. So that's what we have to learn in this country, is we have developed a certain kind of pride, that I'm equal to everybody else. But there are times that we need to show respect for other people. And it is in your mind. Now, on that occasion, the Blessed One was seated, finishing some amiable talk with some very senior Brahmins. At that time, sitting in the assembly was a Brahmin student named Kapathika. Young, shaven head, 16 years old, he was a master of the 3 Vedas with the vocabularies, liturgy, phonology, etymology, and the histories as a 5th. Skilled in philology and grammar, he was well versed in the natural philosophy and the marks of a great man. Somebody that's that young to have that kind of mind that they could memorize all of this stuff, because that's how they did things back then. They did have written language. They didn't use it very much. If you wanted to know something, you memorized it. I have another sutta for you to memorize. So finish this one.
I'm almost done.
Okay. I'll get to listen to it. Okay. So, for a 16-year-old to be able to do that is quite remarkable. He had a very remarkable mind. Now, when I was in Burma, I was staying at this monastery, the Chamye Yeta. Yeta means meditation center. Chamye is very flowery, wishing well. And we had this Samanera that was 9 years old, and he had just a brilliant mind. He could remember things. Oh, just unbelievable. So the teacher gave him the first book of Abhidhamma to memorize, and he did. And he took a test on it, and he passed higher than all the other older monks. He didn't know what he was memorizing, but he memorized it. I mean, brilliant mind. But after I left Burma, I found out that he took off the robes because he was very attached to his father, and he wanted to be with his father more. But to have a mind like that is truly remarkable. So this 16-year-old is pretty remarkable.
So then you seems like a prodigy.
Yeah, yeah, prodigy. That would be a good word for it. While the very senior Brahmins were conversing with the Blessed One, he broke in and interrupted their talk. Then the Blessed One rebuked the Brahmin's student. Thus, let not the venerable student break in and interrupt the talk of the very senior Brahmins while they're conversing. Let the venerable student wait until the talk is finished. Now, this is a very much show of respect, not to break in when especially senior monks get together. Junior monks sit in the back and they don't say anything unless the senior monk turns and says something directly to them. That is a very strong show of respect. What what generally happens if a group of monks come to see a particular monk? The senior of that group is the one that talks to the monk. And while I was in Burma, I happened to be the senior monk for some reason. I don't know how that sort of thing happened. So we would go visit, like there was a monk that he was quite remarkable. For 50 years he practiced loving kindness meditation. You walk in the room, you knew he was radiating loving kindness. I mean, you just knew it. He was such a strong monk that whenever he did any chanting, they put a bowl of water right in front of him, and the water acted like it was boiling. It would be bubbling. And then he would give the water to whoever wanted it. They thought it was real special water. All kinds of claims happened because of that. I don't like that sort of thing, but it happens and we have to accept it. But because I was the senior monk, I got to talk with him for a little while, and oh, it was great fun. And he made sure that he gave me, there was 6 monks that were there, and he gave me 6 robes so that I could give them to all of the other monks. And just special talk. I mean, when we all walked out of this room, we were all smiling. Couldn't help it. It was just great fun. So, and the show of respect was always a very necessary part of Buddhism. That a junior monk never breaks into when a senior monk is saying something. Never interrupts and say, oh no, I don't believe that. No, you don't do that. You never point your finger at a monk trying to make a point. You need to have very polite behavior because monks are very polite people. And you want to show respect in that way and be polite with them. And give respect to the years of their being monks. It's not all cake and candy being a monk, let me tell you. But it is worthwhile. Anyway, when this was said, the Brahmin Chanki said to the Blessed One, let not Master Gautama rebuke the Brahmin student. The Brahmin student is a clansman. He's very learned. He has good delivery. He's wise. He's capable of taking part in the discussion with Master Gautama. Now Chanki, because he was a ruler of that area, knew all of these people that had special gifts. And that's why he spoke up to the Buddha, because he was the most respected one in that area. It was his job to talk to the Buddha, let him know. Then the Blessed One thought, surely, since the Brahmins honor him thus, the Brahmin student must be accomplished in the scriptures of the 3 Vedas. When the Brahmin student thought, when the recluse Gautama catches my eye, I shall ask him a question. Well, one of the things that happens with monks is they have a tendency to know when you have these kind of thoughts. And they will, yeah, okay, you have a question. They'll do that. Then, knowing with his own mind the thought of the Brahmin student, the Blessed One turned his eye towards him when the Brahmin student thought, The recluse Gautama has turned towards me. Suppose I ask him a question. Then he said to the Blessed One, Master Gautama, in regard to the ancient Brahmatic hymns that have come down through oral tradition and in scriptural collections, the Brahmins come to the definite conclusion, only this is true, anything else is wrong. What does the Master Gautama say about this? How then, student, among the Brahmins, is there even a single Brahmin who says, I know this, I see this, only this is true and everything else is wrong? Well, no, Master Gautama. How then, student, among the Brahmins, is there even a single teacher or a single teacher's teachers back to the 7th generation of teachers who says, I know this, I see this, only this is true, anything else is wrong? No, Master Gautama. How then, student, the ancient Brahmin seers, the creators of the hymns, the composers of the hymns, whose ancient hymns that were formally chanted, uttered, and compiled, the Brahmins nowadays still chant and repeat, repeating that was spoken and reciting what was recited. And then he goes through a bunch of names that I'm not going to go through because they're hard to pronounce for me. Did even these ancient Brahmin seers say thus, we know this, we see this, only this is true, everything else is wrong? No, Master Gautama. So, student, it seems that among the Brahmins there's not even a single Brahmin who says, I know this, I see this, and only this is true. Everything else is wrong. And among the Brahmins, there's not even a single teacher or a single teacher's teacher back to the 7th generation of teachers who says thus, I know this, I see this, only this is true, everything else is wrong. And the ancient Brahmin seers, the creators of the hymns, the composers of the hymns, even these ancient Brahmin seers do not say thus, we know this, we see this, only this is true, and everything else is wrong. Suppose there were a file of blind men, each touched with the next. The first does not see, the middle does not see, and the last does not see. So too, student, in regard to their statement, the Brahmins seem to be like a file of blind men. The first does not see, the middle one does not see, and the last does not see. What do you think, student? That being so, does the faith of the Brahmin turn out to be groundless? Interesting thing here is, when we have the suttas, we don't blindly believe the suttas. Just because it's written in a book, we don't take it to mean that it's all going to be 100% correct. Through our direct experience, we can see whether it is true or not, and whether what you're practicing is right, and what the sutta says might not be right. And it's okay to say this part of the sutta is misleading. It does not lead to the end result that the Buddha is teaching. It's okay because of your direct experience. Now, what I'm talking about is Sutta number 20 in the Majjhima Nikaya. There is some sections there that are definitely misleading and going away from what the Buddha taught. It is not only correct, but it is proper for me to bring this up for you. Part of the sutta, it says, that when a hindrance arises and you can't get rid of it, it won't go away, then you take your tongue and press it against the roof of your mouth and you crush mind with mind. The Buddha did not teach that. That was taken from another sutta where the Buddha said, if you practice this way, it doesn't work. But some monks later just took that part and said, well, it goes along with our one-pointed concentration. So we're going to put that in the sutta. I have practiced one-pointed concentration for 20 years. I have practiced tranquility, meditation for 15 years. I know and I see the difference. And it is okay for me to say this part of the sutta does not agree with the Buddha's teaching. It is not right. Yes.
Another interesting part of that is that it stands alone. It's not surrounded by supports.
Right.
That 36 is surrounded by supporting information that matches and supports it, but 20 stands alone, which is really, really unusual for something that's strong to be standing there and not have other
well, but
suttas
the
support
whole
it.
point comes down to, yes, it stands alone, and yes, the other suttas will agree with what I'm saying, but it is the direct experience of trying to do that and seeing the end result and going, that doesn't seem right. Who is trying to push their tongue against the roof of their mouth and crush mind with mind? Who is doing that? Who doesn't like that hindrance? Who wants that hindrance to disappear? And it always comes back to me. It comes back to I don't want that. I have to control that. I am seeing this as concept and taking it personally. So it's very important to not blindly believe anything, but when your direct experience is such that you see for yourself, that is when you can believe what is written in the text. It does come back to your direct experience. The Brahmins honor not only out of faith Master Gautama, they also honor it as oral tradition. Student, first you took the stand on faith, now you take a stand on oral tradition. There are 5 things, student, that may turn out in 2 different ways here and now. What 5? Faith, approval, oral tradition, reasoned cogitation, and reflective acceptance of a view. It can either be it could come out in 2 ways. It can either be a positive thing or a negative thing, so you have to be careful with these. These 5 things may turn out in 2 different ways here and now. Now, something may be fully accepted out of faith, yet it might be empty, hollow, and false. But something else may not be fully accepted out of faith, yet it might be factual, true, and unmistaken. Again, something may be fully approved of, may be well cogitated, may be well reflected upon, yet it might be empty, hollow, and false. But something else might not be well reflected upon, yet it might be factual, true, and unmistaken. Under these conditions, it is not proper for a wise man who preserves truth to come to the definite conclusion, only this is true, anything else is wrong. But Master Gotama, in what way is there the preservation of truth? How does one preserve truth? We asked Master Gotama about the preservation of truth. If a person has faith, student, he preserves the truth when he says, my faith is thus, my faith is thus. But he does not come to the definite conclusion, only this is true, anything else is wrong. Now what happens in this country? My faith is true and you're wrong if you don't believe my faith. In this way, student, there is the preservation of truth. In this way he preserves truth. In this way he describes the preservation of truth. But as yet there's no discovery of truth. So just by saying my faith is thus, you can't come to the definite conclusion, only this is true. You have to investigate more. If a person approves of something, if he recites an oral tradition, if he reaches a conclusion based on reasoned cogitation, if he gains a reflective acceptance of a view, he preserves the truth when he says, my reflective acceptance of this view, or my reflective acceptance of a view is thus, but he does not come to the definite conclusion, only this is true, and anything else is wrong. In this way, too, student, there is the preservation of truth. In this way he preserves truth. In this way he describes the preservation of truth. But as yet there's no discovery of truth. In that way, Master Gotama, there is the preservation of truth. In that way one preserves the truth. In that way we recognize the preservation of truth. But in what way, Master Gotama, is there the discovery of truth? In what way does one discover truth? We asked Master Gotama about the discovery of truth. Here, student, a monk may be living in dependence on some village or town. When a householder or a householder's son goes to him and investigates him in regards to three kinds of states. In regards to states based on greed, in regards to states based on hate, in regards to states based on delusion. Are there in this Venerable One any states based on greed, such that, with his mind obsessed by those states, while not knowing he may say, I know, or while not seeing he may say, I see? Or he might urge others to act in a way that would lead them to their harm and suffering for a long time. As he investigates, he comes to know there are no such states based on greed in this Venerable One. The bodily behavior and the verbal behavior of this Venerable One are not those of one affected by greed. And the Dhamma that this Venerable One teaches is profound, hard to see and hard to understand, peaceful and sublime, unattainable by mere reasoning, and subtle to be experienced by the wise. The Dhamma cannot easily be taught by one affected by greed. An example of something that's happened in Thailand. There's a particular teacher that he developed this system of a crystal ball with the gold Buddha inside holding a crystal ball, with the gold Buddha inside holding a crystal ball. And he became very popular because people could do this meditation. Now he died, and the guy that took over his monastery and his way of teaching wanted to build this huge facility where 100,000 people could come and they could sit under a roof so they wouldn't get wet if it rained, and it was huge amounts of money that he was collecting. And the way he collected it was by telling people that they were going to, if they donated all their money to him right now, they were going to be reborn in the Devaloka and they would be super rich. And they believed him. And he has built this thing. I mean, it's really fantastic. He's got marble floors and just all kinds of things. Remarkable. And he's quite heavily criticized because of his style and his greed of wanting something to happen that he turned into his own personal legacy instead of the legacy of the Buddha. Anyway, when he has investigated him, has seen that he is purified from states based on greed, he next investigates him in regard to states based on hate. Are there in this Venerable One any states based on hate, such that with his mind obsessed by those states, he might urge others to act in a way that would lead them to their harm and suffering for a long time? As he investigates him, he comes to know there's no such states based on hate in this Venerable One. The bodily behavior and the verbal behavior of this Venerable One are not those of one affected by hate. And the Dhamma that this Venerable One teaches is profound, to be experienced by the wise. This Dhamma cannot easily be taught by one affected by hate. When he has investigated him and seen that he is purified from those states based on hate, he next investigates him based on delusion. What's delusion?
You told me this before, didn't you?
Taking things personally.
Ah, yeah. That's crazy to do that. That's delusional.
But it all comes down to, because we think in concepts, we take these concepts to be ours. And then we get wrapped up in either liking or disliking whatever arises. And as we start to learn, the whole point is that we take everything that arises in our mind so personally. And we think in such concepts all the time that we don't see the true nature of everything, is that it arises and passes away by itself. It's not you, it's not yours. When you see that, there is a very freeing aspect of the Dhamma that happens. The desire to control becomes less and less because you're seeing its true nature. You're seeing how it just came up, these thoughts and these ideas, they just came up by themselves. And as you stop feeding the thoughts and ideas, by feeding them I mean taking them as yours and trying to control them, as you stop feeding these and making them stronger, they will get weaker. And eventually they won't even arise and cause any more problems for you. Eventually. this is a gradual practice. So it's not going to happen overnight, and sometimes for some people it does. When you start realizing that sometimes a feeling, like I was giving a talk, and this lady that set up the talk was listening, and all of a sudden she got a panic attack. Now when she got a panic attack, she was telling me after the talk, generally it took her 2 or 3 days to overcome this panic attack. But as she was sitting there, she didn't want to get up and run out of the room and be by herself because she thought that would be very rude. So she sat there. And she started thinking, well, this monk is telling me that all I have to do is practice my 6 R's and this feeling will go away by itself. And she did it. And in about 2 minutes, the panic disappeared. And her mind became very clear and very bright and very alert. Now, her habitual tendency when this kind of feeling arose was to take it personally and try to control it with her thoughts. And it didn't work. It made the feeling bigger and more intense. Until after a couple days she kind of forgot about it, because it's boring for your mind to stay on the same thing for too long. And then she would recover. But this time, after 2 minutes of 6R'ing it, allowing the space for it to be there but not feeding into it, it went away by itself. No, she let go of the delusion. She let go of that belief that that feeling was her. And it was a major lesson that she had during a Dhamma talk. So, when he has investigated him and has seen he is purified from states based on hate, he next investigates in regards to states based on delusion. Are there in this monk or venerable one any states based on delusion that's with his mind obsessed in those states? He might urge others to act in a way that would lead to their harm and suffering for a long time. As he investigates them, he comes to know there are no states based on delusion in this venerable one. The bodily behavior, the verbal behavior of this venerable one are not those of one affected by delusion. And the Dhamma that this venerable one teaches is profound, to be experienced by the wise. This Dhamma cannot easily be taught by one affected by delusion. When he has investigated him and has seen that he is purified from states based on delusion, then he places faith in him. Filled with faith, he visits him and pays respect to him. Having paid respect to him, he gives ear. When he gives ear, he hears the Dhamma. Having heard the Dhamma, he memorizes it and examines the meaning of the teachings he has memorized. When he examines the meaning, he gains a reflective acceptance of those teachings. When he has gained reflective acceptance of those teachings, enthusiasm springs up. When enthusiasm has sprung up, he applies his will. Having applied his will, he scrutinizes. applies his will means that he has the choice of whether to get involved with these things that arise or not. It's your choice. You could get into your old habits, getting involved, fighting with it, making yourself suffer more and more, or not. The Buddha offers us a way to change and to let go of the suffering. This is very major difference, and you don't blindly believe anything. You don't blindly believe anything even if the Buddha said it. You check it out for yourself, see whether it works. If it works, then do it. If it leads to your happiness and the happiness of others around you. So, and you scrutinize, you keep looking to see whether it's right or not, and you strive. You strive. Striving has 4 parts. Seeing the unwholesome, recognizing it, letting go of the unwholesome and relaxing. Bringing up the wholesome, smiling, your object of meditation, staying with your object of meditation. 4 parts to striving. Also, we call it the 6 R's. Resolutely striving, he realizes with the body the ultimate truth. He sees it by penetrating with the wisdom. What is penetrating with wisdom? Seeing how the process works. Seeing dependent origination. In this way, student, there is the discovery of truth. It all comes back to you. It's not the Buddha. It's not me. It all comes back to you and the way you're practicing and the way you're looking as closely as you can. In this way, student, there is the discovery of truth. In this way, one discovers truth. In this way, we describe the discovery of truth. But as yet, there is no final arrival at truth. In that way, Master Gautama, there is the discovery of truth. In that way, one discovers truth. In that way, we recognize the discovery of truth. But in what way, Master Gautama, is there the final arrival at truth? Good question. In what way does one finally arrive at truth? We asked Master Gautama about the final arrival at truth. The final arrival at truth, student, lies in the repetition, development, and cultivation of those same things. In this way, student, there is the final arrival at truth. In this way, one finally arrives at truth. In this way, we describe the final arrival at truth. What are you doing when you sit in meditation? Practicing the 6 R's over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Repetition. You start to go deeper into your meditation. You're developing your meditation. You're developing your understanding of how the process works. And you're cultivating an uplifted mind. That is how you arrive at truth. That's the final arrival at truth. Repetition. Why do we have to do so much repetition? Because we're slow learners. I'm proud of it. I have to work for the things that I understand. It didn't come easy. I've been doing this stuff for years. But finally there comes a time that you do it so much over and over again and your mind goes, oh, look at that. I never saw that before. Of course you've seen it thousands and thousands of times. And that's why it's always so funny when people are practicing meditation with me and they'll hear me say, relax, practice your 6 R's over and over again, and they go, yeah, 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 yeah. And then they finally do it and it works. And they'll come to me all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and they'll say, you know, I've always heard you say this over and over again, and I always believed it and I always did it. But now I understand what you're talking about. And they go off and they're like real happy for a little while, and then they hear me say the same things over and over again. And then it'll happen again. They'll understand it. And they'll come to me and they say, I understood what you were talking about, but now I really understand it. It's comical, because I'm saying the same thing over and over again, but the repetition is needed. And it's an important part of the meditation. In this way, student, there is the final arrival at truth. In this way, one finally arrives at truth. In this way, we describe the final arrival at truth. In that way, Master Gautama, there is the final arrival at truth. In that way, one finally arrives at truth. In that way, we recognize the final arrival at truth. But what, Master Gautama, is most helpful for the final arrival at truth? We asked Master Gautama about the thing most helpful for the final arrival at truth. Striving is most helpful for the final arrival at truth, student. If one does not strive, one will not finally arrive at truth. But because one strives, one does finally arrive at truth. That is why striving is most helpful for the final arrival at truth. What is striving? I just told you. 6 R's. But, Master Gautama, what is most helpful for striving? We asked Master Gautama the thing most helpful for striving. Scrutiny is most helpful for striving, student. If one does not scrutinize, one will not strive. But because one scrutinizes, one strives. That is why scrutiny is most helpful for striving. Seeing how the process works. Looking at it. Seeing how your mind gets distracted. How'd that happen? I mean, I was sitting there and I was happy and everything was going along great, and all of a sudden, I'm in the mud. How did that happen? That's the question. Why? We don't care about why. Why just leads to more questions that you can't answer. But how did that work? I was there, now I'm over here. I didn't just jump over there. There is a process that happens. As you scrutinize, as you take an interest in how mind's attention jumps from one thing to another, then you start to see, before I really got caught in the mud, there was something that happened right before that. So you let go and 6R and come back to your object of meditation, and you notice what happened right before you got caught in the mud. And you 6R then. And as you keep doing this, you start seeing other little things that arise. And you 6R then. and you start staying on your object of meditation longer, and your distraction doesn't last for as long, and you don't get so wound up in it. So you're teaching yourself by scrutinizing how mind's attention works. And it gets incredibly interesting. And it turns out to be kind of fun after a while. But what Master Gotama is most helpful for scrutiny? We ask Master Gotama about the thing most helpful for scrutiny. Application of the will is most helpful for scrutiny, student. If one does not apply one's will, one will not scrutinize. You have to make the decision to take a look. You have to make the decision. If you don't take a look at it, you get caught in all those concepts and you start fighting with the concepts and causing yourself more and more pain. You're not learning about how the process works. So you have to make the decision that I want to see this stuff. I mean, after I got my book, Middle-Length Sayings, and went out for 2 weeks on my own, this became such an interesting process. I couldn't believe it. After 20 years of sloshing around in some heavy-duty philosophical ideas and opinions and concepts, all of a sudden I'm seeing it for real, and I'm going, God, this is great stuff. And after 2 weeks I'm going, no, I can't quit now. I gotta keep going. This is great. It's not just regular good. And I wound up staying 3 months, yeah.
How did you know which suttas to
I didn't.
look at?
What I basically did was I took the Satipatthana Sutta, I took the Anapanasati Sutta, and I read them over and over again. But I would just go to the book and open it up to a page and start reading, because every time I did that, there was something there it just jumped out at me.
Okay.
I mean, there was light, but I didn't need any light in my cave. I had light bulbs going off in my head all the time. It was really true. I mean, and I would read one thing and I'd go, oh, wow. And because of the way my mind works, I don't have quick intelligence. So it takes me a while to see how something works. But once I see something work, and I really see it, I see every aspect around it. So I understand it very deeply. And that's what I wound up doing for 3 months, is just going, oh, let's try this sutta. What does it say here? Oh, wow, yeah. Now let's see how that really does work. But it was not just thinking about it, it was practicing the right effort. And then an insight would come and it would go boing, and I would go, oh, look at that. I mean, I was having the best time of my life, because I was finally figuring out something that I'd been studying for 20 years and been led to believe was very difficult to understand. And it's not. So when I was told to take the commentaries and just close the book and put them over there and don't even refer to them anymore. And just go to the suttas. That was revolutionary to me. Because I had always gone back to the commentaries. And I always got confused because the commentaries didn't match up with the suttas very well. So I had this period of time. It really was the most fun that I'd had in my life, because everything started making sense. And there was no suffering then. It was just one, oh wow, that's right, after another. Well, look at what I'm doing to myself. Why do I need to do that? I don't need to do that anymore. I can let that go. It's nothing. And it was just a series of those over and over and over again. I kind of wonder how long I would have stayed in that cave if they hadn't come to get me. I made a mistake and wrote to them and told them where I was.
Oops.
Yeah.
But then you might not be sitting here right now. If you hadn't
I still might be in that cave
Yeah.
going, oh wow, look at that one!
So thank you for writing it.
But what Master Gautama is most helpful for application of the will? We ask Master Gautama about the thing most helpful for the application of will. Enthusiasm is most helpful for application of the will student. If one does not arouse enthusiasm, one will not apply one's will. How do you arouse your enthusiasm? By seeing it works and going, yeah, that's right. Now let's see if it works in everything. See how it works with all of this. Does it work in the same? Yeah, it does. Ain't that something? As you become more enthusiastic, sometimes you have to curb your enthusiasm.
And no tranquility.
Yeah, you need a little bit of tranquility along with it. But your understanding just blossoms because it's fun. It's truly fun. But because one rouses enthusiasm, one applies one's will. That is why enthusiasm is most helpful for the application of the will. But what Master Gautama is most helpful for enthusiasm? We asked Master Gautama about the thing most helpful for enthusiasm. Reflective acceptance of the teaching is most helpful for enthusiasm. See, just what I was saying. If one does not gain reflective acceptance of the teaching, enthusiasm will not spring up. But because one gains a reflective acceptance of the teachings, enthusiasm springs up. That is why a reflective acceptance of the teachings is most helpful for enthusiasm. But what Master Gautama is most helpful for a reflective acceptance of the teachings? Decent question. We asked Master Gautama about the thing most helpful for a reflective acceptance of the teachings. Examination of the meaning is most helpful. Why do I spend so much time on giving you definitions? So the meaning can become more clear. That is the thing. Examination of the meaning is most helpful for a reflective acceptance of the teaching student. If one does not examine their meaning, one will not gain a reflective acceptance of the teachings. But because one examines their meaning, one gains a reflective acceptance of the teachings. That is why examination of meaning is most helpful for reflective acceptance of the teaching. But what Master Gautama is most helpful for examination of meaning? We asked Master Gautama about the thing most helpful for examination of meaning. Memorizing the teachings is most helpful for examining the meaning, student. If one does not memorize a teaching, one will not examine its meaning. But because one memorizes a teaching, one examines its meaning. Now this doesn't necessarily mean that you have to memorize every sutta, although it's real good if you do. Because then you have it with you, and you can reflect on it very easily. But this means remembering to do your 6 R's, remembering what the 5 precepts are, remembering what the aggregates are, memorizing these things so you have them. And when you do that, then you can start reflecting on their use in different ways, and it gets to be kind of fun. I love those kind of mental games, really do. But what Master Gautama is, well, like memorizing the Eightfold Path, memorizing the 5 no, the 5 faculties, the 5 powers, the 7 enlightenment factors. Memorizing those, knowing them deeply is very helpful. But what Master Gautama is most helpful for memorizing the teachings? We asked Master Gautama the thing most helpful for memorizing the teachings. Hearing the Dhamma is most helpful for the memorizing of the teaching, student. If one does not hear the Dhamma, one does not memorize the teachings. Because one hears the Dhamma, one memorizes the teachings. That is why hearing the Dhamma is most helpful for memorizing the teachings. But what Master Gautama is most helpful for hearing the Dhamma? We asked Master Gautama about the thing most helpful for hearing the Dhamma. Giving ear is most helpful for hearing the Dhamma, student. If one does not give ear, one will not hear the Dhamma. But because one gives ear, one hears the Dhamma. That is why giving ear is most helpful for hearing the Dhamma. That means that while you're listening to a Dhamma talk, you're not thinking about what happened yesterday or what's going to happen after the Dhamma talk. It means that you keep your mind in the present moment. And it does happen. It doesn't happen real often, but it does happen that there are some suttas that you can listen to that are so deeply profound for you that it changes your whole way of looking at things. The 6 sets of 6 is by far the most powerful sutta that I've run across. It's wonderful. All of that repetition is absolutely necessary because you need that repetition so it sinks in and then you got it. When I was in Germany, somebody read it in German, and while they were reading it, it affected their mind so deeply that he had a complete personality change. I mean, this is powerful stuff. And a lot of the people were there, they'd never had a Dhamma talk affect them like that. Occasionally I have had Dhamma talks that were just so stunning that, wow, all I could do is sit back and say, everybody leave me alone. I gotta go with this. This is great. This is why giving ear it's a special kind of attention that you have to You're not comparing anything, all you're doing is listening and getting what the Buddha was saying. Really good. And that fire sermon, I mean, 1,200 monks became arahats just by listening to that one Dhamma talk. I'd say that was pretty impressive. I'll pull it out so we can have it. Yes. But what Master Gotama is most helpful for giving ear? We asked Master Gotama about the thing most helpful for giving ear. Paying respect is most helpful for giving ear, student. If one does not pay respect, one will not give ear. But if one pays respect, one gives ear. That is why paying respect is most helpful for giving ear. I have seen monks go to Dhamma talks and all of a sudden they're nodding off.
Yeah.
They're not paying respect. And actually, I have to say that it has happened to me too. I start listening to somebody and they're just not getting it. And my mind just says, there's nothing worth really listening to that, and that's not respectful. But when you pay respect, you always gain benefit from hearing that. Even though half of the Dhamma you might hear might be wrong, the other half can be very profound for you. But one of the reasons I prefer reading the suttas is because you know that it's not my words. And you'll pay more respect because you know it's not my words. But what Master Gotama is most helpful for paying respect? We asked Master Gotama about the thing most helpful for paying respect. Visiting is most helpful for paying respect, student. If one does not visit a teacher, one will not pay respect to him. But because one visits a teacher, one pays respect to him. That is why visiting is most helpful for paying respect. But what Master Gotama is most helpful for visiting? We asked Master Gotama about the thing most helpful for visiting. Faith is most helpful for visiting. If faith in a teacher does not arise, one will not visit him. But because faith in a teacher arises, one visits him. That's why faith is most helpful for visiting. We asked Master Gotama about the preservation of truth, and Master Gotama answered about the preservation of truth. We approve and accept that answer, and so we are satisfied. We asked Master Gotama about the discovery of truth, and Master Gotama answered about the discovery of truth. We approve of and accept that answer, and so we are satisfied. We asked Master Gotama about the final arrival at truth, and Master Gotama answered about the final arrival at truth. We approve and accept that answer, so we are satisfied. We asked Master Gotama about the thing most helpful for the final arrival at truth, and Master Gotama answered about the thing most helpful for the final arrival at truth. We approve of and accept that answer, so we are satisfied. Whatever we asked Master Gotama about, that he answered us. We approve of and accept that answer, and so we're satisfied. Formerly, Master Gotama, we used to think, who are these bald-pated recluses, these swarthy, menial offspring of the kinsman's feet? In Asia, that's really heavy. Anything to do with your feet is considered dirty. These worthy menial offspring of the kinsman's feet, that they would understand the Dhamma. But Master Gotama has indeed inspired in me love for recluses, confidence in recluses, and reverence for recluses. Magnificent Master Gotama, magnificent. From today let Master Gotama remember me as a lay follower who has gone to him for refuge for life. So, now you know what we're doing, now you know how to do it. You got any questions? Isn't that a nice sutta? I love that sutta.
It's my second favorite.
Hmm?
It's my second favorite one.
What's your first?
Transcend.
Upanisa Sutta.
Yeah, that's a good one. I gave her that book and she just about dropped her load.
For a good number of years. Every year I would take it out and spend at least a month with it or more.
Now there's only a couple of things in the translation I would change.
Just a couple words.
Yeah. The one, what's the Pali word?
Amoja.
Amoja.
Amoja for gladness, and we say relief.
Bhikkhu Bodhi calls it gladness, and to me it's very much closer to relief. Yeah, the whole thing comes down to it's the dependent origination and all these other things, and the way to get to the deliverance and all of that. So it's talking about the experience of jhana. And every time you let go of a hindrance, there is relief. And it's a kind of gladness. But that's the difference between a scholar's view of a word and a practicer's view of a word. I don't consider myself a scholar. But when you have the direct experience, you start gaining little words that when you change from what the scholar says, it seems to make sense for everybody, and then they go, oh, yeah, that's right. That's the way it works. So relief is a better word for that. And then he says the next one is
Joy.
rapture. And I've never liked his changing the word piti, which is Pali word for joy, to rapture. It's too Christian. It's too misunderstood. Joy is better. My way of thinking, anyway. And then there's tranquility, and I agree with that wholeheartedly, because after joy there's always a very tranquil feeling. And the next one he changes to pleasure.
Happiness.
And I change it to happiness.
It's in the book as happiness.
Okay, but in the suttas he changes it to pleasure. Pleasure born of seclusion. Yeah, do you want to bet?
I'm probably wrong, but
No, probably.
Are you allowed to gamble?
are you saying you did it that way in the Samyutta and you did it a different way in the booklet?
It's in every sutta about the first jhana. Pleasure born of seclusion.
Okay.
It's just that you're used to hearing me change that to happiness. And I don't like that translation so well. I don't like pleasure. The Pali word is sukha. Sukha is always translated as happiness. And you remember what I told you about the word sukha. You have a lot of patience. So there are some words that I really prefer to have the old traditional uses of them rather than the newfangled uses. And that's one of the problems I have with some other translators, because they try to make it modern language. And they give definitions to words that are not common usage. And they can be correct, but I'm not going to look up his definition for every word that I run across that I don't understand what he's talking about. When I go by the old traditional ones, I really understand what they're talking about. So I prefer the old traditional kind of translations. Okay. Anybody got any questions? Yeah.
I have a question about chanting
Yeah.
and Puritans.
Yeah.
In your opinion, is there value or benefit in
Yes.
practicing?
Yes. They're suttas. And there is value in chanting suttas. I personally am not enthralled with chanting. And I don't know why. It might be because of past lifetimes. I was a forest monk. And forest monks don't necessarily do any chanting at all. You know, they don't have a Buddha image to bow to. They don't have a lot of these things, but they're doing the real practice. So that's kind of where I am. I'm more into the real practice than I am the sutta chanting. Now, there's a story about these two brothers that they ordained at the same time, and the younger brother decided, well, I've got a lot of time, so I'm going to memorize all of the suttas that the Buddha gave us to memorize. The older brother said, you know, I haven't got so much time, so I'm going to go practice. The older monk went into the forest, practiced, became an arahat. Came back to see his younger brother, and his younger brother was really kind of full of himself because he'd memorized all these suttas, which is not an easy thing to do. But the Buddha saw that this was happening, and he saw that the younger brother was going to try to trick the older brother by asking questions. So the Buddha came around, and he asked a question, and the sutta practicer couldn't answer it. And he asked the older brother the question, and he gave a perfect answer because he had the direct experience. And he did this 3 or 4 times, and it really humbled the younger brother. And the Buddha praised the older brother for doing the practice instead of just merely memorizing. And it inspired the younger brother to go out and practice. So, that's kind of where I'm at. I'd rather do the practice than... I suppose if I really spent enough time, I could memorize suttas, but I don't have a good memory. And you see when you listen to me read, I'm always fumbling over words. And I have to go back and repeat it or whatever, because the dyslexia kicks in and words jump around for me. And that's just the way it is, and that's the way my mind works, and I'm too old to change it, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how to change it. So I accept the fact that I'm going to fumble around and I don't have a good memory, and I'm going to read the suttas, but I'll try to understand them as deeply as I can. So why don't we share some merit? May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.